And LA Jacy was the first part to ever start talking to me and asking me questions. Like, this is crazy, you guys. But I didn't know she was there. It's like she didn't know I was there. She didn't know like what's happening in real time because she's just stuck in her fragmented time period. So I was thrown off by it because again, guys, this is all happening in my brain and it's really scary. So something not so chill happened after I posted my last video. And to catch you up, about a year ago, I spent 10 weeks in a trauma treatment center and I got 5 crazy life-changing diagnoses. And it rocked my world. And I've spent the last year on this difficult but beautiful healing journey, you know, coping with my OSDD, which is a combination of chronic dissociation and having multiple personalities, in addition to fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain condition caused by trauma. And again, that's just the first 2 things I've told you guys about. So I have been going through it. And so I wanted to bring more levity to my channel again. So I started doing some fun story times because I used to do a lot of crazy, silly story times on this channel. And so I saved my best story time for now and I put out my wildest story time ever. It involved a limo, some loosey goose juice, and some potentially reputation ruining tidbits in that story. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. But what happened after I posted that video resulted in the strangest spiral I've ever had and served as a reminder that, oh, I am in fact very mentally ill. So my last 2 live streams got demonetized for using some of these basic words that I will be using in like all of my videos moving forward, and now I have to censor them. So sorry. Thanks, YouTube. But let's just hop right into what wild thing happened to me this past month. So again, about 4 weeks ago, I made this wild YouTube story time, and I truly thought, I've been waiting for years to tell this story time, and I truly thought like this is the story that is gonna finally go viral, that's gonna put me into the hearts of all of YouTube subscribers and make me a star, like this is it. And it did okay, like it did fine, but when I posted it, I remember I had so much fun making it, and I really enjoyed the video, but after I posted it, I watched it back and I was like, why did I make that? Like that content feels so beneath me now. It just feels so like old school, and it just didn't feel like it represented a lot of things that I'm going through now, you know? But that's okay, because I was trying to do more like lighter, fun content and stories that I wanted to tell you guys. So then after that video, I told you that there would be a sequel. There was a part 2 to the crazy party story time. I filmed it, and I remember I was filming it and I was kind of just like, why does this even matter? This feels so inconsequential, but whatever. I go to edit it. I couldn't finish editing this video because it just didn't feel like me. It just felt like I hated the content. I hated the video. I hated the concept. And so I was just like, we'll work on another YouTube video in the meantime. Like we'll come back to that because I just wasn't happy about that. But then I started noticing I started hating all of my content everywhere else. So I of course post TikToks and Instagram stories. I've been trying to go live on YouTube. I also have a talk show. And it was like, when I would film these videos, I would be like, this is a stroke of genius. Like, this is it. I'm going to be the biggest name on all of the intranet. I'd post it, I'd watch it back, and I would delete it right away because I would go, that was your big idea? That's what you came up with? That could have been a 2-sentence tweet that maybe 5 people would have liked. That wasn't gonna go viral, my dear. But then it was like all the content that I was producing, it just felt like silly and inconsequential and just like not me in that sense. And so I was really struggling with it. But the other weird thing too, I'll tell you this, I also noticed that I kept putting on this weird voice. Every time I'd have a camera on, I would just put on this performer voice. Now, I do have a talk show, so I'm sure it was like the talk show version of myself coming through. But it was so frustrating because I'd be like, stop doing that, you know? That's old school TikTok, you know? Talk like you're talking on FaceTime, like you're talking to people. And it's like I couldn't get myself to turn off that voice in everything that I was doing. And so it was frustrating watching myself back going like, no, that's not what I said to do. Just like do what I say. And then I couldn't do it. And so it felt like I just couldn't be normal in any of the content that I was making. I had to be this entertainer. But then I noticed this entertainer persona started trickling back into my social life. So I used to have this really bad habit where I would I would basically like interview people every time I was around them. So I would go to parties or, dinners or even out bar hopping with people. And I would just sit there and interrogate people. I would find out their deepest, darkest secrets. I would get the lowdown on how grandma moved from abroad and how they're from Illinois and they moved here to pursue their dreams and, their childhood trauma and all their deep, dark secrets. And I would get so much information out of them. And they would leave the conversation and probably not even know my name. And it's a thing that I talked about, that like, I would get so mad that people wouldn't ask me questions back. And it's like, yeah, Jacy, you didn't give them a second to breathe to even think of a question to ask you back. And it was this weird people pleaser, entertaining thing that I used to do. And for the past 6 months, I hadn't been doing it. I went to therapy for being a people pleaser, and I started alleviating myself of that pressure to be the entertainment. But it started happening again. And I'd see myself doing it, and I'd be like, stop. You're not even having fun in this conversation. Stop doing it. And I had to start, it's so funny, I had to create affirmations with my therapist, and I would literally be like, Jacy, you do not need to put pressure on yourself to be everyone's entertainment. You do not need to feel responsible for the energy and the fun levels of the room. If you are not having a good time in a conversation, you can give yourself permission to leave. You can check in with yourself throughout the night, and if you are not having fun, you can leave. And I'd be like, yes, perfect, let's go, let's do this. And then I wouldn't. And then I'd still interview the person. I'd still be like, I'm not having fun, but I couldn't stop myself from being this entertainer persona. And it was getting frustrating. And so then other weird, like old habits started happening again, where I noticed I was thrifting a lot more than usual. Now, I'm a thrifter. You guys know I love to go thrifting. I've been thrifting since I was like 15 years old, when I got my first job and my first paycheck. And it was always more of a thing of like, oh, when I leave the house, I'll stop by the thrift store. You don't want to miss anything. There's new inventory every day. I don't want to miss out on a gold mine. So I'll pop in and see what's there. But again, for the past 8 months, it became more of like a fun thing to do, just to go check out. Lately, it was like I noticed I was spending a lot more money at the thrift store. Money that I didn't have, mind you, and on things that I didn't need. I have a closet full of clothes. I got a shoe rack full of shoes, yet I kept buying things because I'm like, oh, well, I need this. It's a one-of-a-kind sweater, and it's the only one right here. If I don't buy it now, it'll disappear for forever, so I have to get it. And I'd be like, okay, like, I guess. And then I noticed I was spending like hundreds and hundreds of dollars in the past 4 weeks, and I'm like, hey, my girl, what are we doing? We don't even need to do that. But it wasn't even just the spending that was a problem. It was the fact that I was going so freaking often. It was like I would wake up, I had a to-do list a mile long of all the content I needed to get done, of all of the just, basic life things. And it was like I'd take one look and I'd go, we're not doing any of that. We're going to Goodwill. Let's go, ladies. And it was like I'd watch myself hop in my car and push to start. Cars don't start like this anymore. You don't roll down your window like this anymore. It's like a boop and a boop. So I don't know why I said all that, but I'd start my car and I'd end up at a Goodwill. And then it's like the next day I'd be like, all right, you bought yourself some fun things. You got that little dopamine rush. Now let's get back to getting into work, because we have lots of work to do. And then I'd look at it again and I'd go, or we could go to the other Goodwill on the other side of town, because we haven't hit that one up in a little bit. Let's go, ladies. Push to start. I'm in the car again, and I'm back at another thrift store. And it was like this weird compulsion that I couldn't stop myself from doing. But another weird compulsion that started happening again was I got into the bad habit of doom scrolling again. So, me when I was like in the depths of my depression, that was definitely one of my worst habits, where my screen time is probably the most embarrassing thing on my phone. You can waterboard that information out of me. And I started noticing my screen time creeping up, and that's just how I was spending my nights, was just on my phone with this little glowing rectangle in my hand, not being able to do anything. Now, mind you, for the past 8 months, I've been so good about not doing that because I found joy in life again. What a concept. And it was like all of that went out the window, and I just got addicted to my phone again. But the problem was I would look at myself and be like, stop, go. You have projects you need to sew. You have things that you have to do, like go and do those fun hobbies. And I would just be like, no, and I would keep scrolling. But I think the worst one of all was I started smoking again. So a few years ago, I started smoking. And then when I got like really depressed, it became like the only thing I was doing, because it was the only means of escaping from this cruel, cruel world that we all live in. And because I had a mental illness that I didn't know about. So I'm a lot more forgiving of myself for it now. I haven't been smoking smoking nearly as much in the past 8 months. And that is because it hurts. It physically hurts. So let me explain a little bit about my fibromyalgia. So my fibromyalgia is because my body from trauma got stuck in freeze and I stopped feeling my body. When I started reconnecting to my nervous system, I started defrosting again, and I can feel how weak my muscles were. I can feel the fascia restrictions. I can feel the muscle guarding that is subconsciously happening. And that's why I'm in constant chronic pain all of the time. So when I smoke, I feel my body more, and I feel the pain in 4K. I can feel the guarding happening, and it hurts. Oh my God, it hurts like hell. It's like feeling my body on turbo mode, and I don't like it. So I had to stop smoking because I'm like, hey, this isn't even fun anymore. It actually kind of like hurts, and it hurts my brain. And I know I dissociate a lot during it, so it's kind of like happy, fun brain time. But I stopped doing it because I didn't need it as an escape and because it physically hurt. So now all of a sudden I'm smoking again. And I find myself at a dispensary, I come back, I'm lighting up a joint, and I'm like, hey, why are we doing this? This is gonna hurt. Like, we don't even like this anymore. And it's like my brain would go, too bad. And I would just do it. And then I'd waste my night away scrolling on my phone and thinking about what next item should I go buy at the thrift shop. So it was this endless cycle of like all these bad habits coming up again. And I'm yelling at myself to stop doing it because I don't want to be doing those things. I'm trying to be like, hey, knock it off. We don't have to do that anymore. But I just couldn't. And so as I'm in the depths of this newly found burnout, one of the weird things that started happening was that my brain, I was unable to turn it off, and I found myself in this endless, relentless, fervent cycle of rumination. And I remember I was struggling with rumination during my time in the treatment program. This was rumination on crack, but it was ruminating about content. It was literally me going, oh, we should totally make that into a YouTube video, and that'll be a big viral story time, but we're gonna need a TikTok to promote it. So this is what that TikTok will look like, but then we're gonna probably have somebody comment on it. So we'll reply to that TikTok with this idea, but then we can post it on Instagram stories. And it was like this endless content strategy. I'm literally being like, we don't need to think about TikTok ideas right now, please stop. And then my brain will be like, fine. Instead, we could think about that book chapter you've been meaning to write, or that musical number, because I know you want to write a musical. Here's what the tap dance number will look like. We'll all be in sequins and top hats, and here's what it's going to sound like. Or for the TV show you've been wanting to write, we could add in this element and layer it in and foreshadow so there's a big twist at the end. And it's just nonstop content ideas from all different facets, from TikTok and YouTube to all of the weird entertainment industry projects I'd love to do one day. But the thoughts don't stop, and I couldn't get them to stop. And so again, every now and then I'd be like, okay, then we just have to make this TikTok right now. I'd make it, think it's a stroke of genius, watch it back and go, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Delete. And I couldn't stop it. The other thing I was constantly thinking about and had so much anxiety about was about money. I couldn't stop thinking about money and the lack of money, and how every time I go to the grocery store, I'd go, I have to buy the discounted bags of salad because that's all I can afford. I'd be worrying that I wasn't being able to make rent for the month. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm not creating content. I'm not generating any income. I'm not going to be able to survive in this apartment kind of thing. But then I would get so mad at myself that I'd be like, but I can go spend $50 at the thrift store. And it's like, I couldn't stop. I was panicking so much about money, but then spending it on frivolous things. And then I realized, oh, I'm overspending. Wait, like my jaw's kind of hurting, and I've been getting manic on the weekends. So on the weekends, when I'm social, when I have all those plans and I'm interviewing people, I'm elevated, I'm fun, I'm having a great time. And then all my energy gets depleted. I go home throughout the week and I have to spend the whole week recovering, and I'm depressed and I'm sad and I'm shaming myself. And I'm like, oh my God, this is my bipolar. It's my bipolar cycling happening all over again. So a few years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder because of these swings from depressive episodes to hypomanic episodes. But then after going to my treatment program, they said, actually, it's not bipolar, it's your OSDD and like all this parts work. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But as this is all happening again, I'm like, this is all so familiar. This is bipolar, like it's happening again. I'm gonna need to call my therapist and get back on some medication because something is amiss here. It's like I couldn't even call my doctor. I couldn't even make the appointment. I was getting so depressed and so out of control. But I think the hardest part about all of this was the fact I was like shaming myself for it. And I was getting so mad at myself. I feel like now, because I've gone through so much therapy, it's like I can see all it happening now, and I can see where my bad habits are, like what is getting me into dissociative and depressive episodes, but I couldn't stop it. And so it's like I'm yelling at myself being like, Jacy, you fucking lazy bum, get off your ass, stop smoking weed, and get into your content production. Make the content that you can't stop thinking about. You can't just come up with ideas but not actually make them happen. But then when I would make them happen, I'd be like, that was the shittiest piece of content I've ever seen. What is wrong with you? That was a terrible idea. Don't do any of that. And so as the weeks progressed and as things are like spiraling further and further, it was like I started hating myself and I started getting mad at myself all the time, but I couldn't find my way out of it. And so then what happened was I was about to go house sit for my sister in Arizona for 10 days. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a breakthrough in content. Like, we're going to get everything back on track. But instead, I had probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in my entire healing journey. So when I was about to go to my sister's, I was telling people I wanted to treat it kind of like how writers go on writers' retreats. You know how they're like, oh, I just need to lock myself into a lake house cabin and finish all the chapters in my novel and finally finish and publish my book. But I need to lock myself in a room and finish it. I am not great at accents, so that was, I don't know why I even did that. But that was my idea. I was like, I'm going to be in this house locked up. I'm going to get so much content done because it's all I can do. And so then I packed up, it's so funny, I packed up literally every piece of technology I own. I brought my webcam and my computer microphone. I brought my vlog camera, this camera. Speaking of this camera, it's probably the last time I'll use it because I am so sorry it keeps going in and out of focus. This keeps happening, but this is actually the second time I filmed this video. The first time my microphone died and I had no idea. So I refilmed it and then it became all blurry. And I thought about refilming it again because I got all those demonetization alerts and I was like, I don't want to have to censor a whole bunch of this video. But honestly, I didn't have it in me to do this video a third time. It gets kind of difficult coming up and I didn't have it in me. So I apologize that this video isn't that high quality, but I just wanted to get it done. I brought my vlog camera, this camera, I brought 2 tripods, all of my microphones, all of my SD cards, all my external hard drives, everything. Surprised I didn't get flagged going through TSA. It probably looked like I was bringing in a bomb with all those batteries, but I was like, I am just gonna sit and make content. So I arrive in Arizona and I spend one day with my sister while I'm out there. I drive her to the airport and I'm driving back to the airport and it was like I came to and I'm in a dispensary and I'm buying some joints and I'm literally looking and I'm going, what am I doing? I don't even want this. This wasn't part of the plan. I was actually actively avoiding doing this, being outside of my apartment. And here I am doing the thing I wasn't supposed to be doing. So I go home that night, light up. I just spend the next few hours doom scrolling on my phone. I wake up the next day and I go, I haven't been to any of the thrift shops out here. Let's go thrifting out here. And I go and I spend like another $70 on things that I don't need. Boots and dresses and sweaters. And I'm like, I have no room in my luggage for any of this. I know I shouldn't be buying any of this. But again, it was like this compulsion. And like the reasoning was like, well, I haven't, again, a gold mine. I'll never see this stuff again. So I have to check it out. And I was like, oh my God, fine. Let's just get back into content tonight when we get back. Nope, I light up, I scroll, I go to sleep, and that's it. So for 3 or 4 days, that was all I was doing. And I was just yelling at myself. I was like, why can't you be normal? Why can't you just do the things that you know you need to be doing? And I remember I kind of reached this breaking point where I started shouting. Like I started shouting at myself. And I was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you keep self-sabotaging your own goals? Do you not see that you have all these dreams and hopes and ambitions and ideas and you can't make them happen because of your own stupid, idiotic decisions? Don't you see that you will never be a successful, functioning human if you can't even have the self-discipline to not do the bad habits that you know are bad for you? Don't you see that you are ruining your own life? Why can't you just be normal? Why can't you just do all of the things that you need to be doing? And why are all the things that you are doing in your content meaningless and performative and not like you? Like, why are you being this way? And I was shouting at myself and I was crying. And I just remember this, I just heard this little voice inside my head say, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to help. And I like paused because I was like, what? And I said, who is that? And this little voice answered to me, "It's LA Jacy." And it was like the glass shattering in my brain, because this whole time for the past 4 weeks, I was like, oh, it is my bipolar. I have bipolar disorder. I knew it. It never once occurred to me that it could have been a part. And I know you guys know this from the thumbnail. You probably clocked it from the very beginning, but the nature of how my brain works is my whole life, my brain has been protecting itself from itself. It's protecting me from me. I didn't even learn about this OSDD until about a year ago. And for the past year, I've been working on multiple parts throughout my whole life that have been screaming in pain and trying to heal from trauma. And I worked on so many of those, and I got to a point where I'm like, oh my God, I'm okay. I'm cured. I don't have this problem with multiple personalities anymore. I'm good. And so when things started getting bad again, it never once crossed my mind that it could have been from a part, because that's just the nature of this disorder. I am a fragmented human with separate entities of myself living in my brain. But the other nature of it, and with my parts and my OSD specifically, is that they're all very linear, and they are all parts of me that got stuck in time. So when all of these habits came up, it was like, well, yeah, that's all things that I've done in the past. That's all me and old versions of me, but it's not the me now. Oh, that's right. I have multiple personalities, but for the first time in this whole journey, in this healing process, I experienced what happens when a part completely takes over. And I'm co-fronting consciously, but I was not in control. I was not behind the wheel, controlling the brain, the actions, and the thoughts. And all of that shaming of myself, all of that confusion, I was essentially yelling at that part, and I was shaming that part because I just didn't know that she was there. And it's like, I knew all my parts are there. I know this, but it's like, again, I don't know how to explain it, but my brain just, it blocks that off. So with LA Jacy, as soon as she said it's LA Jacy, I'm like, no shit, duh, of course it is. LA Jacy is the one who moved to LA during COVID to explore the entertainment industry and to discover any of her interests within any of the facets of the industry. That's why she thinks in TikTok and YouTube videos, but also the musical and the TV show and the books that she wants to write, because she's so multifaceted. She also used thrifting as her hobby. Like, that was her pastime. That was her dopamine hit. But she's also the first one to kind of explore drugs and weed, and to get into that and use that as a coping mechanism. She's also the doom scroller who thought she had bipolar and who really started formulating her life around those bipolar swings and started conditioning her lifestyle to have the crazy fun weekends with friends, but then the depressive episodes during the week. And it's like, duh, I've already been through this because she's been through it. But I didn't realize it was all of her taking over again. And so I realized that this wasn't going to be a productive week content-wise. There was not going to be too many videos going to be made, because I realized I'm going to have to do some heavy lifting parts work here right now. And I hadn't done this since therapy. And I'm very grateful that I did my intensive outpatient program, because I was equipped with the tools to be able to handle this on my own and to kind of navigate all of this parts work. And so I said, okay, LA Jacy, I think it's time we talk. So when I do my parts work, the way I first started doing it when I learned about all of this was journaling. And it was terrifying when I would journal, because I would describe it like Tom Riddle's diary, because I am full on writing in a journal, and then it's as if I am possessed and an entity takes over my hand and starts writing thoughts that I'm not even thinking, but that's communicating back to me. It is straight up Tom Riddle's diary. The first time it happened was the scariest thing, because it's like, oh my God, like, this is real. Like, I'm not controlling this, you know. It makes me believe in Ouija boards a little bit, of like, oh my God, I'm not doing that, you guys. I swear that's not me. But after a while, journaling was too slow. My brain works 1,000 miles a minute. And again, because I see so clearly in images, the journaling wasn't as effective for me. And over the past 8 months to a year, I've gotten really good at doing my parts work all in my brain. And what that looks like, it is a two-way conversation. It's actually a multiple-way conversations. When I have I call them my team meetings, when I have all of my parts kind of together. And so the way that I see it, it looks like a conference room, and I see all my parts so clearly, and they're stuck in time, and they're all wearing their specific things. And I call specific parts into the meeting. I ask everybody to like stay behind. They can watch. Sometimes they don't. It's this whole thing, you guys. It's so crazy. But I call Jacy like into the meeting, and I see her so clearly. And when I start conversing with my parts, it's really hard because it's so easy and it happens so effortlessly, in the sense that I have to pause every now and then and go, phew, I really have this, don't I? Like this is real. And I am full on having a conversation with this other person inside my brain that's just there talking back to me, and I'm not doing anything other than just listening and talking back. And for so long, my biggest fear, and I always said like the scariest thing would be to have schizophrenia. Like, could you imagine having a mental illness and not knowing it and being so freaked out by everything going on around you and just not understanding? And it's like, it's my biggest fear because it's been happening to me. And it's so hard because I present so normal, and I am so normal, and I feel so normal. And people all the time are like, I would never know that you're even depressed, let alone you have 10 ladies in your brain, let alone that you have a dissociation disorder, that you've been through trauma. And I'm like, you're telling me I didn't even know, and I don't know. And for the past 4 weeks, this part has taken over my life, and I had no idea that it was even happening, and I was trying so desperately to pull myself out of it. And I know my diagnosis, and I know that that's what was happening, but I still wasn't, it's like I wasn't cognizant of the reality of it. And so when I'm talking to my parts, it's scary because I'm like, fuck, this is a real mental disorder, and it's scary, but it's also such a relief knowing that that's what it is, because for so long I struggled and I didn't know that that's what's going on in my brain. And again, after a year, I'm so much more equipped to handle this. I'm so much better at having those talks and working through it. And so I was ready to talk to Jacy, doing the parts work that I learned in all of my programs. So the first step in parts work is you kind of have them tell you their story. Jacy kind of told me all about, exploring the entertainment industry, making content, how she loves meeting all these new people. And I asked her, I said, what do you think your role is within our system? And she said, to make content. It's to come up with viral content ideas. And I said, okay, but why? Just because it's your job? And she said, well, yeah, it's to make money. That's our source of income. And I said, well, what are you afraid will happen if you don't make money? And she said, we won't survive. We won't make it in LA. We fail. And if we fail, we die. It's a big term we use in therapy, that everything comes down to death, especially with the idea of how I start new parts in that concept and idea. Again, go watch Shadow Brains. But she was like, if I don't make money, I'll die in this system because that's my role. And that was hard to hear because it's like, I was shaming her so much of please stop ruminating on content ideas. Who cares? But that's what she felt like she had to do. We were running out of money. We haven't been working. We haven't been generating income. So she's panicking because she feels like that's her responsibility within the system, to make money. And to do that, it's content. And to do that, it's to create all these content viral ideas and to produce. But it was overwhelming our system, and she didn't know that. I asked about that performer voice and that persona, and she said well, yeah, that's how I have to entertain. That's my job. But that's also my role moving to LA. It's a lot of networking. It's a lot of transactional relationships. It's a lot of connecting with people so that they'll remember you and that you have this positive idea in their heads for future projects. And that, again, I was such a people pleaser at this time that it's a safety thing, that I am safer when people like me. If people don't like me, they could take advantage of me, they could hurt me, they could destroy my view of LA and the entertainment industry. So I have to be this entertainer persona every time I go out, because it brings me safety and it could bring me opportunities. And I'm like, yeah, that makes so much sense. I remember that time moving to LA where I had to do all that. And so I asked her, I said, well, what about those TikTok ideas that aren't really viral. They're kind of just like silly thoughts or things that people wouldn't really care about, you know? They're not going to get you any type of numbers. Why do you keep posting those? And she said it's because I wasn't listening. So she put them on the internet hoping somebody would listen to her. And that hit home because I realized, oh, she's probably saying all those thoughts in the brain and I'm just dismissing them. So she has to tell the internet because she feels so lonely and alone that nobody's listening to her. So she'll put it out there for somebody. And then when I go back and I rewatch it, that's her chance for me to finally listen to her. And then I delete it and I shame it and I go, that's annoying, that's stupid, that's dumb. I didn't know I was doing that. And I had to tell her, like, you can tell me, like, you can tell me those things. You don't need to post them. And she just kept saying, I've been trying, but you don't listen. And I said, I'm sorry. And I said, well, what about all the thrifting and the doom scrolling and the weed? And even before I even asked that, it became so clear, and I'd love to do future videos on this too, of I didn't realize that every single part in my system, they all have a means of dissociating. They all have a method that gets us to dissociate, because for every single one of my parts, dissociating is an escape, it's a coping mechanism, and it's a way to protect myself. It's a way to maintain safety within my nervous system, is to just escape from everything. So before I even asked that, it's like she said, well, that's how we dissociate. I didn't realize that I was using thrifting to dissociate. I didn't realize that I'm going there just to mindlessly look at things. Because when you're thrifting, that's all you're doing is just looking and going, wow, wow, pretty. And sure, every now and then you buy something, because the other part of it is I get that dopamine hit. I get that instant gratification. I get that hit of excitement and joy. Even though I know when I go home, I might not ever wear that again and I'm gonna end up donating it back. But I want that dopamine hit. But I also was just using it as a coping mechanism to dissociate. Same thing with smoking, same thing with doom scrolling. It was the form of escape to protect myself, because that's all my brain is doing, is protecting itself and trying to find that safety, of course. So here's the interesting thing about this is, with all of the other parts that I've worked on, they're younger parts, and they have been struggling in my system or maintaining these difficult roles for years and years and years. And so the concept is that I put them to rest, and I finally go, you don't need to do that anymore. I can take it from here. And it's been very much of like, I don't want to say maternal, but more of like a big sister, where it's like, I'm stepping in to alleviate you of those roles. Let's redistribute new roles to you. That's more fun. That brings you more rest. This LA Jacy part was not like that, because she's not only my newest part chronologically, but she's also the oldest in age. She's so much more hardened to trauma. She's so much more aware of the difficulties of the world, but she's also a lot more conscious of who she is. So me telling her, baby girl, it's okay. You can rest. I can take that from you. She's like, bitch, I'm good. She's like, I'm okay, worry about yourself. Like, she was a lot more defiant, and she was a lot more like, again, she just hasn't been struggling for that long. And it's funny because she's mature and she's sharp and she's brilliant and she's smart and she's creative and she's incredible. But we are butting heads because of that, because she's probably the most similar to me. We're like the closest in age. It's so hard to explain. So using all my regular tricks, they weren't working on her, you know? And then I asked her, like, what are you afraid of will happen if I take away some of those responsibilities for you? And she said to me that, you're killing me. She goes, you're killing me. And that caught me off guard, because I was like, what do you mean killing you? And she was like, you hate me. You talk constantly about how you hate all of my ideas. You're talking constantly and telling me to stop. And the thing that I'm supposed to be doing in our system, you're begging to get rid of me. You're trying to kill me because you hate me. That was another thing college Jacy said back in Shadow Brains that just made me feel awful, because I'm like, I don't hate you. I didn't know it was you. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you. Didn't know. And so it's not just that she doesn't want her role to be taken away. She's fighting for her life because she felt like I was trying to remove her completely from my system. And I had to tell her, no, that's not it at all. It's just that I didn't know you were there. we've been overwhelmed by your influx of content ideas, but also we've been going through so much and that content just doesn't fit us anymore. The ideas you have for our life and our virality and about the content we want to put out there, it just doesn't fit who we are anymore. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, oh my God, I once again forgot the number one step and rule when I'm doing parts work. And I don't know why my brain always forgets to do this. I forgot to introduce myself. I heard Jacy's story. I heard all about her grievances, what she thinks her role is, but she hasn't heard from me yet. And that's always the hard part in this parts work, is me telling my parts about everything, because it feels like I'm telling them about trauma they don't know about and, you know, upsetting them about things that we go through in our life. But this was different because, again, this is my oldest in age part. She knows everything that we've been through. She's, you know, 12th in line. When I told her everything, she's like, yeah, I already know all that happened. Again, she's a video game character being placed into her setting. She knows her backstory, may not feel all the emotion behind it, but she's aware. And so I was like, okay. But when I told her, we get diagnosed with OSDD, we learn about fibromyalgia, we get these other 3 diagnoses I haven't told you guys about. She was so relieved because she's like, oh, that's what it is? That's insane. She's like, I thought I have bipolar. I thought I was dying from the inside. I thought something was killing me. That's what it is? And it's like she got excited because she goes, why the fuck aren't we sharing that on our Instagram? Why the hell aren't we sharing all of those YouTube ideas? It's like her brain started flooding with all of these new content ideas, but the things that I've been wanting to talk about and the things that I've been wanting to do. She's like, girl, why aren't we talking about that? And I was like, I don't know, you tell me. And she said to me, I didn't know. And it's just, oh, it's one of those things too, again, that I'm just like, fuck, I'm mentally ill. Like, this is crazy, you guys. But I didn't know she was there. It's like she didn't know I was there. She didn't know like what's happening in real time because she's just stuck in her fragmented time period. Oof. It's so weird because whenever I do this, it's always like, hi, I'm you from the future. And it's weird time traveling nonsense. I'd love to tell you guys about all that. I have so many things I've been wanting to tell you guys. So many things about my 5 diagnoses, about how my life has completely changed and I've learned so much about myself, about this process of dealing with all these multiple personalities. And Jacy was the first part to ever start talking to me and asking me questions. Which is so weird because I'm not used to people asking me questions in the way that I do. But she's me and she knows. She's the one going out there and interrogating other people. So of course she's gonna do it to me. So I was thrown off by it because, again, guys, this is all happening in my brain and it's really scary. And she said, you could have been making videos this whole time. What's been holding you back from talking about your healing journey? And I said, well, I guess a part of me still felt worried, you know, that it's not the content people are used to, that it's not the same entertaining concepts I was coming up with before. And she's like, no, that's because of me. I was doing that because I was probably blocking you. Because I was like, that's not what's gonna get us to go viral. Talking about being mixed and my curly hair is what's gonna get us the views. She's like, no, that's me. What's your blockage? And I said, it's because I haven't revealed my 3rd diagnosis yet. I've so much I want to tell you guys, but I haven't revealed that 3rd diagnosis that ties everything together. And she said, well, why not? And I said, because I'm saving it for something big. It's life-changing, and it's something that I feel like deserves a TV show. It deserves the musical. It deserves the novel. And I don't want to just give it up in a YouTube video. It doesn't feel like it's doing it justice. It feels inappropriate and offensive to me to throw it away like that. But the other thing is that I'm still going through it. My 3rd diagnosis, I am still actively in the process of healing from. And so I'm not done with it. So I have to wait to be done with it so I can tell people about it in this grand gesture that deserves the telling of this story. And she said, why do you always wait to tell stories once they're over? Why are you always living in the past tense? And I said, you bitch, you heard my therapist say that. That was a whole thing, that I can't live in the present, that I struggle to be present at all times. And it's the nature of this disorder. But I didn't realize that it was also in my content, that I couldn't just take people on the journey. I had to wait to tell them the complete story. And when she said that, I'm like, that makes so much more sense, because the past year I feel like I've just been in collection mode, in documenting and researching mode. I've been saving all of my notes so that way I can have this big grand novel with twists and turns and foreshadowing and everything. But I can't tell you what I'm going through now yet, because I'm still actively collecting all the information. And she said, so you're gonna wait years just to tell them about your past instead of just taking them with you in the present? I was like, damn, bitch, you really were co-fronting, because you and my therapist are in cahoots right now. It was the biggest parts work I've ever done, having her communicate with me as eloquently as I'm talking to you guys now, because she is me a year ago, but this fragmented, separated person from myself. And it was the first time that my parts, I wasn't helping them heal, she was helping me heal. So the last step in parts work is you give them a new role. You tell them you don't need to maintain that role anymore. It's not her responsibility to be the entertainer, to come up with content, to overproduce things just to help us stay afloat financially. I got it from here. But again, she's smart, she's older, she wants to help, and she needs that new role. And so we gave her a new role. And she's gonna be the one helping me tell my story in present time. But we have decided to give her the duties of being the archivist, because again, she thinks in content. And when I was telling her all this, it's kind of like the rumination was still continuing, but instead of it being silly things about my hair or living in LA, it was now about all these diagnoses. And so I told her, I need you to just write them down. You can be the archivist of all of the ideas. And so what I did is I created a special note on my homepage of my phone just for LA Jacy. Whenever she gets a fleeting thought, a Twitter thought, a TikTok idea, a chapter of the book, just write it down, just archive it. I don't need her to produce any of it. I'll be in charge of producing it. I'll go through it every week and I'll decide what's gonna be good content. And I've been doing this for already just like a few days, and it's so interesting because she was keeping notes in there pretty actively the first couple of days, and then I'd go back and read them, and it was like they weren't even content ideas, they were just things she wanted to tell me. Because again, those Twitter thoughts that she had were her just trying to communicate to me. And so the fact that I kind of like opened up the floodgates talking to her, she didn't need them to write them down anymore, because I could just hear her in my brain and I could actively have that conversation with her. And she just wanted to be heard. And so now that she's being heard, she's already getting put to rest naturally. We've stopped bickering because I didn't realize that I was shaming her and bickering with her, but our relationship has improved so much, and I already feel so much better. And those habits, it's like they went away. I stopped smoking effortlessly because I was like, yeah, it hurts. And she's like, yeah, I get that now. I feel it now. We don't need to do that anymore. I stopped scrolling as much. I got motivated, and I condensed my content plan into things that are manageable and won't overload our system. I still go thrifting, but I haven't been spending as much money. But again, this is also new and recent, that I don't have a full update. But that's also the point, is that I want to tell you guys things in real time now, because I didn't realize that my biggest fear was being present. And I'm finally overcoming that fear. And so being present, it might be messy and chaotic, and all of the strings aren't going to be neatly tied up in a beautiful twist and turn story, but that's okay, because maybe the mess is the story. And this video is messy, but it's honest and it's real. And I want to take you guys with me, because I am ready to share at least the next diagnosis with you guys, and to really share the extent of what I've been going through. I mean, this video alone was only within the OSDD part of my diagnoses, and I've been going through it, you guys, but in a way that is, again, beautiful and terrifying and scary, and I'm coping with it, and I have my ups and my downs, and I'm healing, but I'm taking 2 steps back, and I'm struggling. But that's my story now. And I hope that you guys will join me for this next chapter, this next part in my life, because my whole life has unraveled this past year. And I can tell you guys about it now. I'm ready to tell you now. So that's the story of how one of my OSDD parts took over my life for the past month, and I didn't even realize it. Again, you guys, I am actively learning about this diagnosis. I am actively trying to heal from this disorder, and it is a crazy experience. And if you guys want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, because it's only going to get crazier with some of the things that I'm going to be telling you, and I could use all of the support that I could get for that third diagnosis video, which should be the next video. Again, I did film that party sequel story time, but it feels so old and not representative of who I am now. But I'll tell you what, I'll post that video when I hit 50,000 subscribers. I have been stuck at 20,000-ish subscribers for years now, and Jacy and I both think that it's time to boost those numbers. We are ready for a renaissance of the Jacy Aaron, not only YouTube channel, but just content and life in general. So if you guys are not subscribed, I would so appreciate you subscribing. Help me boost those numbers and, you know, start this next chapter in my life, because I'm ready. But I can't do it without you. But as usual, I am on other social media platforms, and I'm getting there. I'm getting to a point where I can be productive and I'm not stuck in the depressive episode from Jacy. So follow me on Instagram, TikTok. I've been going live on Wednesdays, or trying to, but at this point, I don't want to say a complete schedule because I've been so off and on. I'm trying my best, you guys. But healing, it's a bitch. But it's a bitch that's gonna keep me alive, so I gotta keep doing it. And if any of you guys can relate to any of this, with any of the bad habits of not being able to pull yourself out of depressive episodes, if you have parts or characters or can relate to anything, let me know down in the comments before, because I had one of my family members recently ask me, like, you know, you kind of overshare online. Is that helpful? And I told them, more than you know. Me sharing my story is scary and terrifying, and I feel like I'm telling the world that I'm crazy when I'm begging them to believe me that I'm not. And hearing your comments relating to anything, sadly, like even when it's trauma or mental illness, knowing that you guys can relate truly does make me feel a lot less alone and a lot more inclined to continue sharing. So if you guys have anything you want to say, it really does help me on a personal level. But I love you guys so much, and I'll see you for that next video where I really reveal what's been going on. So I'll see you guys then. Toodles! We also agreed that we can still thrift, you guys. Thrifting still is one of my hobbies. But we can go and look. We can go back to what I was doing before, and that's just looking and going, ooh, that's pretty. I don't need it. Like, this is all thrifted. I love this. Like, it's fun. I feel like my parts get represented when I buy things for them. The problem was I kept buying things just going like, this is cute, I'll sew this up and alter it. And then I go, I don't want to alter a freaking sweater into a sweater vest. I'm okay. So there's going to be balance. There'll be balance with it. But trust me, you guys, I'm still going to keep thrifting. So stay tuned for all of those TikToks, because there's more fashion coming your way.